All right, so we're back here in the booth. I'm getting ready to shoot the candy on our first panel. I'm going to be shooting an apple red, so it's candy apple red. I'm using the DeVilbiss Techna 1.4 tip. Same as we used, I believe, on all the some of the other stuff that we had done. So I don't want to use any cleaners at this point. I don't want to mess with the design. The only thing I want to do is just take a clean tack rag, very lightly, dust it off. Again, I don't want to push down. I really don't want to move around my tape. So be careful because it will peel up your tape just by catching some edges. All right. Now we're going to be shooting candy. You see all the dust that came off of there. So we're going to be shooting candy, which is kind of temperamental to spray. You really have to be patient with it. Now with candies, you start slow and slowly build up the color. You don't want to go straight away and try to get your color in the first couple coats because if there's a problem, it gets blotchy or streaky, it's really hard to fix. Okay, so it's best to start slow, build up your color slowly. We'll probably put maybe 2 coats on to see how concentrated it is. If I need to add a little bit more concentrate to get it to cover quicker, I will. But it's just some candy I already had mixed up, so we'll see how it goes. And one of the other things with candy is your overlap, right? So as we're spraying, typically we were doing 50% overlap where you would cover up half of what you just put in there. With candies, you want to tighten that up so you're covering up, I think it's like around 70 or 80% of what you already, what you painted. So you're moving down less, right? You're advancing your spray gun less each pass. With candies, you want to keep them nice and tight passes, okay? Don't shoot a coat, jump here and then jump here. You're going to have 3 heavy streaks, right? So we want to kind of tighten up our pattern, all right? Distance is the same. I'd rather be a little further away than too close, to be honest, with candy, just to eliminate some problems. But basically everything's the same. You want to make sure that it dries in between coats. Now, one of the problems that you might have with candies is we have to put a lot on typically, I'd say probably between 4 and 6 coats. And people want to keep putting it on too quickly, right? They don't want to let it set in between coats. And what happens is, because there's a high solvent content in the candy, it wants to attack the clear that's underneath there. It wants to eat into it. So a lot of times people will put it on too heavy of the candy, or even the black base coat, and the solvents will soften up the clear underneath and make it wrinkle, right? So just kind of a word of caution: go slow, make sure it dries in between coats well. All right. So I've already tacked it. We turn the booth on. We'll set up the gun, and let's get shooting. I'll leave it at that. That was like 4 or 5 coats. I like it. All right, we're back here at the house. I had just finished painting the candy on this earlier today, and it's been a few hours, probably 4 or 5 hours since it's been painted, so it's plenty dry at this point. The candy we put on there is just an air dry paint. It's not a catalyzed paint, so the warmer it is, the quicker it's going to dry. And we weren't putting on very heavy coats anyway, so it hardened up pretty good. next thing I want to do is come in and I want to start peeling off all the tape that will expose the silver flake underneath. Okay, so just have a razor blade handy with you. It helps sometimes to get some of the tape started to kind of get under it. Also, if you notice while you're peeling it, a piece of paint wants to come with it, you can always trim it to avoid peeling off the big chunk and continue on. Okay, so I just come through and I look for a little edge that I can grab. Right, don't try to do this while it's too fresh. You will dig into the paint. It's inevitable. All right, so be patient and let it dry completely. Now, when I'm unmasking on this tape with the fine line, don't pull straight up. I know the tendency is just to pull straight up, but that what happens with that is the paint's still a little gummy. It'll actually start peeling up big pieces of paint, and this leaves the edge cleaner. All right, so this kind of breaks off the paint from the tape as you're going. So what you do is you just peel it back over itself. Right, just go straight back, peeling it over itself, and that helps give us a clean line. Now, it's not 100% all the time. A lot of it depends on the prep and how the paint was sprayed, but you can see it does a pretty good job. Now, it's not always going to peel off if you pull straight up, but it's just a good habit to get into. All right, so I'm just going to go through and unmask. Next up will be cleaning any bleed through, any paint that went under the tape, especially at the junctions. So anywhere where the tape overlaps itself, there's usually a little bit of paint that goes underneath it. We'll come back and clean that up. And then we're going to scuff it with a scuff pad and then clear it, and then it should be pretty much done by then. I think we're going to do maybe a little buff on it. All right. And then also when you're unmasking, if it does peel off a little bit, like there was just a real small little bit of the black that came off, I can always come back with a little bit of a paint and a brush to touch it up, and then it's fine. Okay, so not a big deal. A lot of it we can fix. Alright, so we got all the tape off. Not terrible, not bad. We've got a couple little spots to clean up, a couple little spots to touch up. So a couple little spots, that was the part that I missed right there with the tape. So I'll just touch that up with a little bit of black. We'll just come through and touch up a couple little spots. Clean up a little spots with a razor blade. A little corner came off right there, and I think we'll be good. We'll do a little scuff and clear it, and I think we'll be good with this one. All right. All right, we're back. I'm getting ready to clear this, and that'll be pretty much our last thing to do on this besides buffing. But what I want to do is I unmasked it last night after we shot it. Came out pretty good. What I want to do is give it a scuff. So since it's been sitting, I want to make sure that we have something for the clear to stick to. So I want to Scotch-Brite it. You can use either a red or a gray. I prefer red. It's a little more aggressive, but you do have to be careful not to get too aggressive because it will tear into your job. So I just want to give everything a quick scuff. I'm going to blow it off, and then I'm going to come back and do a little bit of cleanup with a razor blade and do a little touch up on some of the spots with a brush. So first thing, just a quick scuff, and you want to be thorough. You don't want to be too aggressive, but you want to make sure you get everything. Sorry if the camera is shaking a bit much. Okay. And we're just trying to get the shine off, and your little shine, make sure we got a little scratch in it. And at this time, also, one thing you want to make sure you get rid of is the little pencil marks that we put on when we first started doing the masking. And those will be on the silver. So I just want to go through and Scotch-Brite those so that they're gone. Or if you used something that would come off with water, damp rag would be fine also. If you don't get those off, you're going to see them underneath the clear. And it just kind of takes away from the look. Okay, so we're looking pretty good. Kind of look it over, make sure you got everything scuffed. Make sure there's a little scratch on all of it, all your edges and everything. Got the marks off, looks good. I'm going to blow it off with some air and then come through and start doing a little cleanup. All right, get the dust off. Now what I'm going to do is just take a razor blade and I want to kind of go around and look for anything that doesn't look right, A little cleanup. If you got a little smudge or a little paint that is not in the right place, just come through and clean it up, okay? This one's not too terrible. And you want to be careful if you're using a razor blade. I'm not using the tip of it. I'm not using the sharp end. I'm just kind of keeping it as flat as possible and scraping. Just kind of go around. You're not going to get everything, but looking pretty decent. All right, last thing I want to do is a little touch up. Pinstriping brush. And then I'm just using the same black paint that we used for spraying all the graphics. So just a little on the brush. You don't want it too wet, otherwise it'll kind of spread out and get a little messy. So I'm just going to come in and just start filling in any little spots. And the nice thing is if you mess up with the brush, you can either wipe it off or let it dry and then clean it back up with a razor blade. So it's nice. Trim that a little bit. This is basically your last chance to fix any little problems that there might be before you clear it. Touch it up without turning the panel. And this is a spot that a piece of tape didn't get cut out of, so I'm just going to come through and connect them. Now, yes, I am putting black on this, and if you put it in the sun, you'll probably see a little bit of a black because the rest of the black that we shot is covered with red, so it's kind of a real dark red that you can see in the sun. But for what we're doing, this is totally fine. All right. Looking pretty good. Nothing standing out. Looks all right. All right, we'll let that dry for a couple minutes. And then this is ready for paint. So we'll put it in the booth. I'll give it a quick wipe down with a degreaser, and we'll put on maybe 3 coats of clear. And then last thing will be to buff. But this is all the painting part. So we're close to the end. All right. So next time you see it, it'll be in the booth getting cleared. All right, we're back here in the booth. I've got the panel set up, getting ready to clear it. We've cleaned up all the little mishaps, touch up, scuffed it, and I've already got it cleaned with degreaser. So I'm going to come in. I think we're going to shoot 3 to 4 coats of clear on there, and that should be it. All right. So next up, you'll see some clear. All right. So we're ready to start clearing this. I've already tacked it off with a tack rag. Got clear mixed up using the DeVilbiss Techna. It's looking good. And again, with the clear, as with any of them, you want to make sure that you're getting even coverage. So you want to make sure that your gun is out past the beginning, and you want to make sure that you're going from side to side completely off the panel. Right? So I want to start and stop off the panel, and I want to make sure that my gun, when I start, is spraying half of it on, and when I finish, it's the same, spraying half of it off. Right? So we'll let that sit. I think I'll do 4 coats on this one. It's going to look pretty good. All right, so second coat of clear. And again, you want to check to make sure that it's ready for the second coat. Don't touch the panel itself. Touch off onto the bench right here next to it. If it feels slippery, it's too soon. If it's a little tacky or at least stringy, it's ready to go. So this one right here, a little tacky, ready to go. A little bit at a time, and again, you're going to put a lot of clear on, but you can't put it on all at once. You got to spread it out into multiple coats, and make sure you let it sit in between coats to let the solvents evaporate. Otherwise, if you pound them all on 4 coats all at the same time, you're going to have what's called solvent popping, where it's going to trap everything and it's going to start blistering and bubbling, trying to get the solvents out. So be patient and put on the coats properly each time and let them dry. This is the 3rd coat. It's looking good. So I'm letting it sit about 5-10 minutes in between coats, and it seems to be working pretty well. And it is hot out today, so if it's a little cooler, you might want to let it sit a little bit longer. It also depends on the speed of the hardener you're using. We're using a slower hardener, so it's working fine. So I think 1 more coat on this, and we should be good. All right, last coat. After you're done shooting it, make sure you look it over. Make sure you're not missing any spots, any dry spots. Looks good to me. See if I can show it to you. Looks really good. Cool. if you look at the reflection of the lights, as I go over the surface, you can see, you should be able to see where the lines are. It's a little bumpy because you have different levels between the silver and the black and red. So we'll end up buffing it to take some of that out. But overall, not bad.